Hey, what's up guys, it's Oakley, and CA put out a video walking us through a Norsca campaign, so it's going to be Darren taking the wheel, and it's going to be pretty cool. So it's going to be for Throg. He's obviously going to be one of the two legendary lords, the first being Wulfric the Wanderer, this one being Throg, King of Trolls. So there's going to be a lot of unique stuff, so in this video we'll be pausing, taking a look at everything that pops up, discussing a bit of what was officially released here, and tying in it into other things that have been released elsewhere. But anyways, they're going to start off the campaign showing us Throg and showing that, of course, he is Lord of the Monstrous Horde. That brings with it several benefits. So physical resistance for his troll units, and then also reduce upkeep for the Norscan troll. So obviously he is meant to synergize with the big monsters. And it's not just this ability. You also have technology tree, building tree, skill unlocks for Throg. All of that can additionally help increase that synergy. So yeah, you're going to be seeing a lot of trolls in this campaign and big monsters. There's also a pretty interesting one here that we kind of knew about before, but it's important to reinforce this. But here it is. All units in Throg's army are immune to attrition. So this allows you to wander through the north without taking too much damage. Because of course you're immune to it, you're used to it. Also, regions to the south that might otherwise give you attrition, you can avoid that. And this is going to be particularly important because later in this video they do point out that there are things you can do to increase attrition rates for the enemy. As a result to, I believe it's investing in Nurgle and having like a plague and lots of things like that that allow you to hurt the enemy while at the same time you hold strong with your immunity to attrition. So I really like the mechanics they're baking into this, very thematic and emblematic. So this is going to be pretty cool, and I'm just overall very impressed with how much effort they put into not only artwork but the play style of Norsca and really making them stand out. So to me this seems very worthwhile and it's going to be very fun. So yeah, they start off with this. And then after that, we're going to get a bit of an overview of what happens with the campaign map in general. So here, Darren gives us an overview of the map. What he's going to describe essentially is he's taken a couple turns. I think he's like 20 turns in or so. But anyways, he's taken over a fair amount of the north here, taken the settlements. And then over here in the center, where Throg is going to be Wulfric the Wanderer's remaining area. He's the second legendary lord. And essentially what Darren's going to want to do is hunt out the lord, because as they describe later in this video towards the end, essentially the way you work out alliances amongst the Norscan tribes is you can have the ability to confederate, but in order to make that confederation work, you have to humiliate the enemy war leader, the enemy chief, kill him in battle, and then you can sort of confederate. So that's a cool mechanic. So that's why he's going out to hunt Wulfric and then gain control of this region. It's also important to note, later in this video they talk about region occupation, but this is a good point to discuss it. What they talk about is Norsca obviously can take the settlements up here, but then outside of its territory, it can occupy coastal cities and enemy capitals, but other regions it can only really raise or sack or create a shrine to one of the gods. So that's interesting. They have they can capture any specific type of faction settlement, but it has to be either a capital or a coastal city. So again, another wrinkle as to what you can conquer and where you can control, but that one thematically works and it's pretty cool. So I just wanted to point that out here. And yeah, there's going to be a lot of incentives also to push outside of your main region, mostly because of the way the economy works, with you wanting to raid. Because, you know, income for your factions, just passive income, is going to be really low. I mean, you can see one of these, Doomkeep, only 241. Many of the other settlements also not getting you much income. So your main goal is going to be trying to raid and sack and pillage and burn, which is going to be, like we've seen, pushing you to play the campaign differently. Then they show Throg here. So they show this really cool animation that they've created for him. I mean, every little bit of this has been cleaned up. I do want to point out on the right-hand side a couple interesting components with the different heroes that you can bring and agents. So you can have a Skinwolf Werekin moving around. We're going to see one of those guys. He functions kind of like an assassin, but then he also plays in battle, almost functioning like a Gorbel, really tearing it up in melee. So that was cool to see. Skinwolves are going to be creeping around the world. If you look at your treasury, again, they talk about, yeah, you've built up a fair amount of bank from raiding, but on the net, you don't have very good income. So you're always going to be trying to raid to replenish your constantly leaking treasury. And then also at the faction bonuses, you can see various allegiances to the different gods. So the crow is going to be Nurgle, the serpent is going to be Slanesh, and then Yeah, there's two other ones, and we'll talk about those later. But anyways, so you can gain the favor of different gods, and there's different levels that you can unlock for those gods based off what you've done that will get you different benefits. But we'll talk about that later in the video. And yeah, here he's also talking a little bit about the economy still, mostly the stuff that I mentioned where your economy is always leaking and it's very hard to get that stable, so you're going to try and raid. So that's why currently Darren is at war with several factions. Kislev to the north, who has yet to be kind of updated. I can imagine that's going to be a future update with more units. Bretonia as well, who's going to be kind of raiding your coastline. So I imagine that's going to be an early threat that you're going to face to the west as Bretonia and perhaps even other factions in the combined campaign are going to be trying to raid you. And then, of course, Norsca, which is going to be intertribal warfare from a variety of folks that you're going to be trying to beat back. And especially one of the things I'm excited to see is kind of that inner tribal conflict. And one of the things that I do hope that they emphasize is trying to make it hard for you. So like we said earlier, in order to gain a confederacy, you have to beat the enemy tribal lord. So I hope that CA does something to make that fight a little harder. So what they could try and do is, given the fact that mammoths are so strong and controlling mammoths in the lore is so important for different tribal chiefs, perhaps they could bring the two together. And so if you go to snipe an enemy lord, give him a bunch of mammoths to make that battle that much harder. So yeah, that's one way I could see them playing the mammoths. Give them to the AI a little bit for free to make the enemy that much harder to defeat. So that would be kind of cool. Yeah, just make them a little bit more resilient. But anyways, this army here is relatively fresh, and here we can see he moused over the javelins. These guys we had heard mention of before, but now we can see their stat line. Javelin infantry confirmed to be anti-large, so they're going to be very important for taking out lords, heroes, and especially monsters. So you're going to want to definitely stack those in your army. And then the rest of the forces here, we've already seen this roster confirmed previously, and they're pretty low stats, and so you're going to want to rank these up eventually through rating and battle and stances. And then next they're going to go over to the skill tree. So yeah, this is kind of a generic thing where you can go down different chains, one for movement, and then also, you know, Norse resilience. This will probably decrease attrition, increase replenishment, serve to die, despoilers, things for increasing rating. Voice of the Dark Gods here is different effects to help you in combat. And you can see it goes pretty far. So lots of chains to go down here. Ice Wrath is going to be basically for investing in +5 melee attack for your trolls and ice trolls. So like we mentioned, there's a lot of synergy you can get down the line. It goes all the way up to +20 leadership, which is very important because those guys teeter on the edge of being pretty shitty. And then +15 attack. And then of course you can increase that with Frostbitten to give them more melee defense. All the way up to missile resistance 20% and +15 melee defense. So you can make these guys into real wrecking balls. And then Copious Vomit here with a hilarious description. But that's going to be one of the in-battle abilities, a magical missile attack here, with actually a pretty far projectile range, 100. I was expecting it to be close quarters, but 100 is pretty decent range for someone vomiting. And yeah, so it's a magical and fire damage, powerful explosion, but it's more dealt towards single combatants versus enemy blobs. So that's going to be a cool ability. And then, of course, there's more along this quest chain here that you can, or sorry, not quest chain, but just skill chain where you can unlock more things at the top. Scarred Veteran. These are traits we've seen before. Foe Seeker. So more damage, more healing, more health, things of that nature. At the bottom here, the ability to work on the campaign ability. So here, unlock one more Famir Bale Fiend, but then also the Famir Bale Fiend that you do raise up gets more XP upon recruitment. And then Mutant Regeneration at the top is going to be a pretty important one. So Casualty Replenishment Rate plus 25% for all Norse Control, Ice Troll units, and Famir Warrior units. So that is really crazy. So if you start, I mean, late game for these guys, they're going to be dealing lots of damage, taking lots of damage, and then regenerating really quickly, plus some replenishment rate bonuses that we'll be seeing later in this video. Your armies are going to be real wrecking balls. So this is really impressive stuff, and a lot to choose from. And then of course the King of Trolls here gives you public order +2 and then decrease upkeep, in addition to what was previously stated as your kind of general campaign 1 buffs from the very start. And then they're going to show a little bit of the other regions here. Darren in this little narrative is going to try and make his way towards a Longship Graveyard, knowing or believing that Wulfric is over there and that he needs to defeat him. So he's going to come over here, take out this settlement. So it's an easy victory. The the garrison was relatively small. And here, what's going to be really important is they mentioned that you have the occupy and sack mechanics, and notice again that occupy applies, I believe, to all Norscan settlements to the north, and then outside of that, it's just going to be only coastal cities and then only faction capitals. But besides that, if it doesn't satisfy those conditions, you have to sack it. But you can also raise it, and you can raise it up to various lords. So Darren's going to go over and kind of talk a little bit about that. But the four lords here, raised for the hound, raised for the crow, raised for the eagle, raised for the serpent, these are the Norscan versions of the chaos gods. So again, the hound, the first one is going to be Khorne. Crow, the second one here is Nurgle. The eagle is going to be Tzeentch, and then the serpent is going to be Slaanesh. So when you raise for one of these, what's super interesting is it gets you favor of that god. But not just that, you have to really choose, because choosing the favor of one god decreases the favor amongst the others. So here you can see raising for this particular god gets you +6 favor, but then it decreases -2 across the board for all the others. And that is true of whichever god you choose. So you're going to be currying favor of the different gods, perhaps trying to spread favor amongst them so it's neutral, but perhaps you want to devote yourself to one god. And so at the top here you can see kind of where your favor lies with the 4 gods, and this is a really interesting mechanic. So here the first one on the top right is going to be Khorne. So there's 3 levels of what you get from these various god favors, and the top level one is really interesting. He'll be mousing over them, and essentially what you get is really super powerful stuff. So for, I believe, Nurgle, the last tier is going to be a big plague that strikes down everyone else on the campaign map, so kind of like campaign map wide attrition from a plague. And then the other 2 ones are going to be the ability to recruit certain high level casters. But then this one is super interesting. I want to focus on Champion of the Hound here, level 3, because there is a long bit of text here that they completely blurred out. So CA was not afraid to blur out the other ones, but they were scared to blur, or sorry, for the other ones they didn't need to blur it out, as you'll see. But in this one, this text is blurred out. But I mean, looking at this, to me this reads Regiment of Renown. I mean, a lot of people are theorizing this, but this is very interesting. To me, this seems like, I mean, it reads like a Regiment of Renown. I could be, it's really hard to get anywhere. But anyways, the theory behind this goes that end of the favor for each god, for 2 of them, gets you a special caster, a special hero. Nurgle gets you a faction-wide plague attack on all the other factions. And then for Nurgle here, or sorry, for Khorne here, for the Hound, a Regiment of Renown. So people are theorizing, what the hell could this be? So maybe it's a special chosen unit with the mark of Khorne, or people are even speculating that perhaps it's even a Bloodthirster or something crazy. So yeah, we have to wait and see, but there's a reason why CA blurred this out, so I'm very eager to see what that's going to be. But overall, it's pretty interesting to note that you're going to get some really interesting endgame mechanics with this stuff. So yeah, Champion of the Crow here, so a devastating plague will be unleashed across the world, your faction being immune. Wound recovery time, -4 for all characters. Casualty replenishment rate, +20% for all your forces. So while the enemy is keeling over, you're going to be buffing up how quickly you can replenish your guys. So I love these different endgame stuff. Super interesting. That Champion of the Crow endgame ability is going to be really powerful. Champion of the Eagle here, and again, the Eagle is going to be Tzeentch. A Mighty Lord of Change. Azric the Maze Keeper can be unlocked. So he's added to your recruitment pool, and alongside that you get more starting Winds of Magic and more research rate. So like I said, yep. And then this one, a Specialist Chaos Sorcerer, Hiar the Tormentor, can fight for your faction. Lord recruitment rate +5, -10% upkeep for all forces. So like we saw, 2 of these guys unlock a special champion/sorcerer. Nurgle gets you a plague. And that leaves, again, what is going to be the last one for Khorne. Well, I don't think it's going to be a Lord. Part of the blurred words look like Regiment of Renown, so that is really interesting stuff. But anyways, that's all I could glean from this portion of the video. Really cool stuff. I'm very much going to enjoy this mechanic, and I hope it's something that they maybe even implement later on in terms of Chaos. And when they revamp Chaos down in the future, the mark of different gods is going to be very key. Yeah, here they talk about little things that you can gain. Of course, you get more talismans and things of that nature when you gain areas, gain them under your control. And here they raised to the Serpent God, and you can see there's a actual visual representation of the, I guess, the grizzly totem that you raise to that particular god. So that was pretty interesting. Then they're going to move over their sorcerer to take a look over here, and they're going to confirm that Wulfric is indeed inside the city. So that is going to confirm Darren's goal of going and capturing that settlement. So he's going to proceed to do that, and it's going to come to the conclusion at the end of the video. And yeah, then they're going to take a look at the rest of the campaign map, where they have one of their other main armies who's been going around here. So he's got a bit more of an experienced force, still relatively cheap, weak troops, but it's again buffed up by a mammoth. This time it's going to be a feral mammoth. And yeah, you definitely have to unlock some technology and building structures to recruit those mammoths. But we'll be seeing that a little bit later in this battle. And here comes an interesting part. So, I need to go back and capture this. This is pretty important. So yeah, okay, so right now he's in raiding camp stance. This is where you kind of sit still and you try and replenish your units. But here what's interesting is people are pointing out that there's a casualty replenishment rate of plus 20%, whereas I believe the typical is about 10% for other factions. So I don't know if this is kind of something that's standard for Norsca or something that you get from like a faction-wide bonus, but plus 20% is pretty powerful. Although to counteract this, what they've done is they've made it more damaging. So if you're going to try and do this raiding camp within your own settlement, you're going to have pretty devastating public order negatives, minus 30, and then minus 100% income from all buildings in this region when raiding your own region. So it looks like, yes, they've made it easier to replenish, but they've penalized you kind of trying to farm or exploit this ability back in your own territories. But then again, maybe you will do it just for the sake of it. And then they're going to go into normal stance to be able to move up, go towards the enemy. And then what they do mention here as well is even at the end of your turn, you can switch back into a raiding stance, and this will start to well, of course, give you income from raiding, but then also it'll start to tick away at the enemy's public order growth. And again, they mentioned some of the penalties that would happen if you did it in your own backyard. And then Darren's going to mention that all this little tweaking that he's done thus far has helped improve their deficit, or at least the current rate that the treasury is leaking. But that's about it. Then he's going to end his turn. You can see all the factions scrolling by. Nothing necessarily new to see there. And then here, basically, diplomacy comes up. It's going to be Ostland and other forces of the Empire that are going to come up and try and wage war on you. So you're going to be at war a lot of the time. It's important to note that people are kind of worried about, if you go back to that this map here, how is the Empire going to handle? A lot of people have been complaining that the Empire gets completely stomped in a lot of campaigns and just gets destroyed. And with a powerful new Norsca faction fleshed out to the north with a lot of incentive to push south, is the Empire going to collapse that much more quickly? So people are really hoping with the revamp of the campaign that hopefully comes out with Norsca that we'll be seeing a buff up for the Empire. But that is yet to be seen. So yeah, that's about it. What else do they state? Oh yeah, then they talk about some quest chains. So here is the quest of the Wintertooth Crown. So what it's asking you to do is essentially build a plunder hall, which is a recruitment area, and then after you do that, then it's to start having ice trolls, so you get a nice chain to kind of force your hand or guide your hand in terms of getting more troll synergy. Here they show us a little bit of the building, so the plunder hall here, and then also the obsidian quarry. So they talk about obsidian here being a new resource that's being included in the campaign. It's always nice to see that. So here you can get carved obsidian resource production plus 32 chests. I assume that's going to be a resource that you perhaps need for certain yeah, I'm not sure actually. They didn't really give us much of a key as to what the obsidian would be used for. Perhaps it's used to create certain buildings, or maybe even unlock certain units or build certain units or whatnot. Obsidian you'd think would be for special weapons or armor. And here they show one of the mountain, the chaos totems, and you can recruit a second level one. So this one allows you to get the feral mammoth, and then the armored mammoth, and then up here it looks like this is going to be a mammoth with a war shrine on top. Building the ruinous kiln is going to be the next level up. So this is a very high tier thing that you have to build your way up to. Pretty interesting to see the feral mammoth here. 425? Question mark? Is the mammoth? I mean, to me that sounds kind of cheap. It is supposed to be the feral version, not super strong and liable to panic and rout. Whereas the upgraded armored one is going to be much more powerful. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see how this thing kind of pans out balance-wise. I am still very quizzical and apprehensive about Mammoth being overpowered. They talk a bit about different economic buildings. The top tier one only bringing 300 income. So again, underlining the fact that, yeah, you're not going to get much passive income from the Norscan tribes. You're going to have to do a lot of raiding and different things of that nature to try and buff up your income, or at least your war chest. So that's about it. Then they're going to go back to this area. They're going to move in to try and finish off Wolfric. Throg here moving really slowly, not able to close the distance, but that's okay. They're going to put him on raiding stance, again, that being an important mechanic, and then they're going to send in Sigwolf, Packmaster, and what he's going to do is he's going to be told to damage one of the buildings, and they decide to take out the one that would otherwise allow you to recruit units. So they're going to try and damage that to try and obviously make the ensuing fight a little bit easier. So Sigwolf is going to move in, he's going to have a successful activity, and destroy that structure, making it that much easier. He's also going to level up, which gives Darren an opportunity to talk a bit about this. So yeah, pretty straightforward stuff for improving your damage you can cause to buildings. Other one, magical abilities. Here, this one's probably for the ability to take on enemy forces. And then at the top, actually, let's go back real quick. Oh, not far enough. At the top, different magical abilities. Here you can get him on a Marauder Chariot, Aura of Chaos. And then it looks like on the right, Genna's Golden Hound. So some stuff that we've seen from previous lords. Genna's Golden Hounds, I believe. The Wood Elves had that one. So yeah, some abilities that we've seen before. Plague of Rust, obviously going to be pretty important to take out the armor of enemy forces and allow your troops to chop through them. Then on this front, we're going to be able to see Sven Sea Strider, who's going to be a Skin Wolf. So he's going to be moving up. He's going to try and attack this Bretonnian force that's been a bit suffering from attrition up here, and he's going to try and assassinate one of the lords. And this is really cool. So he's going to move in and just slaughter this dude. So it's going to be really cool to have skin wolves running around murdering people. So they're going to be very interesting assassins, but then obviously you can buff them up in various ways so that on the battlefield they're also going to be very powerful. Ruinous Flesh here, more armor, more missile resistance. In battle, Frenzied Assault here gives them plus 16 melee attack, plus 36% charge bonus. So lots of ways to stack up your guys and make them really, really powerful. They're going to show some other abilities also where you can get... Oops, sorry. Wanted to go back. Oh, real quick. Where is it? I know at some point they did show... Huh. Well, anyways, I think at some point they did show that you could get the Berserk ability with that Skin Wolf. So now they're going to move up and they're going to try and attack Erengrad here, and they're going to do a quick auto-resolve and easily destroy this Kislevian force. And again, this kind of underlies the idea that, hey, we're steamrolling these factions pretty easily, and I hope CA does something to buff up the Empire and the resistance to the threats to the north, the east, the west, every single direction. And then here they mention that this is a special structure here, so that's shown by this little emblem. And by doing so, you unlock the ability to create a special building. And so they'll be showing this here. This is actually one of Throg's, it's part of his quest chain, that you can actually build something that's going to be in his, they'll get to this and it'll be a little bit, it'll make a little bit more sense. But here it is. So they're going to go up and they're going to show, here it is. So by taking out this structure, you can get the Cave of the Rocky Throne. So this is essentially where the throne is in the lore of Throg. So by retaking this and by then trying to rank up to tier 3, you can get up and have this really cool bonus where now you get minus 20% recruitment for your Norse controls, more unit experience, and you unlock more recruitment of trolls, etc. So this is going to be pretty powerful. Another thing that people were noting, if we go back a little bit, but yeah, so one of the things people wanted to point out here is if you take a look at this capital here, it has currently 6 slots. So people were saying that before Norsca had a maximum of 4 slots and a level 3 capital. It looks like that's changed. So now the capitals that you were able to capture are 6 for Norsca. And people are theorizing that with the coming out of Norsca, what's also going to happen is that there's going to be a general update to the campaign map that's going to improve province capitals in general to the point that everyone's going to get 8 slots to their province capitals. But then the Wood Elves and Hordes are going to stay at a lower number. So here we can see they're going to stay at 6. But presumably this is going to be tied to the update of province capitals going up to 8. It's not entirely clear if that's just for the combined campaign or if that's going to be rolled into the old world. But yeah, that's an interesting thing to note as well. And anyways, now we're back to the Cave of the Rocky Throne with its bonuses, yada yada. And yeah, the rest of the structures are going to be the Norsca structures. So you can see here tiering up to get cavalry or infantry. Takes a fair amount of time to get up to that rank. So here Devon is going to do the Ruinous Altar, which improves growth and a little bit of, I think, public order. And then here you can see replenishment for your forces. Then he's going to go over for his Lord, show all sorts of different kinds of things that you can get. So on the top, it's going to be stuff that's tied thematically to different. So there's like 3 levels that go with each of the different gods. So at the top, invest towards Khorne or the Hound. Then you can see Nurgle. Here you can see the Eagle or Tzeentch. And then here you can see Slaanesh. So by currying the favor of certain gods, you kind of, I believe, lock out the ability to invest in different gods. I think that's the way it works. So you really have to pick and choose. And then of course here, your Marauder Chieftain can eventually mount a War Mammoth. That is going to be something to definitely try and tier up to. And then obviously the favor of the different gods will get you different things. So Drinker of Blood has more melee, and then Noxious stuff has missile resistance. And let's see, yep, so here the top level one for kind of going after Khorne. Sorry, so earlier I was talking about the Berserk ability for the Skin Wolf. I was confused. I was remembering this part of the video. So anyway, the Berserk ability here is going to be for this Lord. Top level Khorne allows you to get Berserk. And again, this is a 3-stage ability where the more and more you're engaged in combat, the more these abilities stack to the point where later on you get leadership, melee attack, and physical resistance. So again, lots of really interesting stuff tied to the gods, and this really has a big teaser for when CA eventually comes back and redoes Chaos, and especially really ties them to the lore-wise, how they can have marks of different gods. So this is a big teaser for those types of mechanics. So now essentially they're going to finish the campaign, they're going to end their turn. Not much more is going to happen here at the end, although there are a couple interesting things that I did preview at the very beginning of this battle that we still have to go over. And one of the things that's going to pop up here is going to be the Monstrous Arcanum. So this is a technology that you have to get up to, and essentially it's a mechanic. So if you look at the bottom right, here's the Monstrous Arcanum. Essentially what this does is it allows you to open up the book, and this is going to be a kind of like a unique campaign mechanic, kind of like the dwarves have the Book of Grudges. Here it's going to be something that makes you do quests, but in this case it's going to be quests to fight monsters. So it's going to be teched up. So the first one here is going to be basically you have to hunt down and slay the deadly frost worm known as Frugostrex, Sign of the Cold Void, and as a reward you get an ancient frostworm scale and more stuff to your treasury. So you get a scale here, you get an eyeball for the Cygor. I don't quite know how this works. Does it mean that you can then continue to recruit these monsters in the future? Or does having this allow you just a buff? Do you get to spawn it? It's not quite sure how this plays out. I'd love to hear what you guys have for theories below. But yeah, it's pretty cool. So you'll see them flip through this. So it starts with a Frostworm. Then you play as against a Cygor. Then here a Dragon Ogre. Oops, sorry, let's go back a little bit. Oop. Yeah, so here you can see Tragar the Mountain Cleaver, he's going to be a Dragon Ogre Shaggoth, and then on the right, it's locked out until you unlock the technology tree, but this is pretty obvious that that is going to be an Arachnarok Spider that you have to fight. Then after that, they have a Giant, and then they have, what looks like a Forest Dragon, I believe. And then after that, they have a Mammoth, and then a Terrorgeist being the last one. So it looks like there's 4 different pages, but I think the way they're saying it's 3 levels of unlocking the technology to get these. And this is going to be really interesting. We don't quite know what these monster battles are going to be like. What does it mean to go up against this Cygor? Are a pair of Cygors even bigger and stronger than others of their kind? So do you go onto the battle and there's just literally 2 Cygor monsters with a whole army that you have to go after? Or do they have supporting allies? How did this play out? Anyways, it has me very excited because this is going to be a really cool mechanic. Can you roll in deep with a huge army, or do you have to face these guys with just like a couple of lords? That would be really interesting if you have to fight these guys with with just lords. Make for interesting Monster Hunter mechanics. But yeah, that is going to be it for this Monstrous Arcanum. And then they talk a little bit about more of the conditions. We can scroll back real briefly to that. See, I did mouse over something that's somewhat important. So the secrets of Gork and Mork that they gloss over here shows that yes, you can occupy Black Crag and Karak Draz. That was something that we mentioned before, the ability to occupy different settlements along the coast or faction capitals. So just wanted to point that out. And then here, a lot of stuff tied to raiding and destroying the world. And then at the top here is the technology that you can get for the Monster Hunter. Different things to unlock the different tiers of the Monster Hunter. Master of Beasts so here's the 3 levels. Let's start with that. Monster Hunter gets the first, I believe, 3 monsters that you can chase after. One with Beast is going to be the next level up, 2 more monsters, and then Master of Beast after that is, I believe, the last pair of monsters or something. But yeah, that's the 3 chains that you have to get that. The last one here shows a Mammoth, because obviously the last 2 beasts that you're going to be unlocking is going to be the Mammoth and then the Terrorgeist. So yeah, that's about it for that. He's going to research that one. And then essentially what he's going to do is he's going to pivot back to show Throg here. He's going to attack Wulfric, and what they're going to do is they're going to essentially auto-resolve this battle, show a little bit of just the armies marching, but then end it for the sake of this campaign playthrough. He's going to destroy him, and with that, essentially what happens is if you kill this enemy faction leader, yeah, you can do your typical stuff, you can sack it, you can do whatnot, but like I was saying in the very beginning of the battle, or sorry, of the video, what ends up happening is if you kill a faction leader, it seems like with the Norscan tribes, you can then go over to them, and now your strength is so overwhelming after having humbled their leader and essentially killed him that you can now negotiate or force them into joining your confederation. So that's going to be an important thing. Again, another dynamic that forces you not necessarily to do traditional diplomacy, but to do a battle of just of the strongest. To gain your confederacy by knocking out chieftains and leaders. So that is pretty cool. Anyways, that's about it for this Let's Play. I think we've digested just about everything. We got into every nook and cranny of the screenshot. So I hope you guys enjoyed this overview. Stay tuned for more, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out. See ya.